10 hypothetical planets that might exist in our solar system. Number 10. A shy planet. Is there a planet hiding in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter? Over the last 2 centuries, many astronomers have thought so. In 1801, Giuseppe Piazzi, an Italian priest, noticed a fairly bright object in that region. He named it Ceres after the Roman goddess of farming. The following year, German astronomer Heinrich Olbers discovered another object there, which he called Pallas. And in 1806, he added Vesta to the list, which by then also included Juno, discovered in 1804 by fellow German Carl Ludwig Harding. Olbers suggested that all of them were fragments of a planet that had crashed into another celestial body or had been torn apart by its proximity to Jupiter. This remained a popular premise for many years. However, today, this thesis has been disproved. They are simply very large asteroids, held with 1 million smaller ones in orbit between Mars and Jupiter. Together, they might have formed a planet had it not been for Jupiter's massive gravity that keeps them apart, overcoming their own gravitational attractions. Number 9. What happened to Planet 5? The late heavy bombardment, when a huge number of asteroids smashed into Mercury, Venus, the Earth, Mars and our Moon, occurred about 3.8 billion years ago. Where these asteroids came from, no one is quite sure. The most intriguing theory is that there was a planet simply called Planet 5 that orbited between Mars and the asteroid belt. This was proposed in 2002 by NASA scientists Jacques J. Lissor and John Chambers. They suggest that Jupiter's gravitational pull caused Planet 5 to be unstable. It then crashed into the asteroid belt and flung thousands of them towards Mars and the inner planets. So, what happened to Planet 5? The scientists posed several possibilities. Either it careered into the Sun, or was flung out into space, and this was their most speculative idea, crashed into Mars, creating the Borealis Basin that covers 40% of Mars, and also threw fragments at the inner planets. Not every scientist agrees with Lissor and Chambers. They think that Planet 5 never existed and that the asteroids that bombarded the solid planets were ones from the asteroid belt, disturbed by changes in the orbit of Jupiter and Saturn, or that Mars crashed into a large asteroid and the fragments were thrown towards the Sun. Number 8. Slippery Mercury. The planets orbit the Sun in stretched circles known as ellipses, ovals in effect. Mercury is the nearest planet to the Sun. Sir Isaac Newton was worried. He realized through observation that Mercury's orbit was a little strange. It changed slightly with each revolution of the Sun. It just didn't fit with his brilliant equations. In 1859, Urbain Jean-Joseph Le Verrier, a famous French astronomer, proposed that there was a planet closer to the Sun whose gravitation was causing this anomaly. He named it Vulcan and said that, unfortunately, it was impossible to spot because it was so close to the Sun. For years, this explanation was accepted, particularly as several amateur astronomers claimed to have spotted the mysterious Vulcan. Einstein, in his general theory of relativity, showed that Vulcan wasn't necessary to explain Mercury's seemingly strange behavior. He theorized that mass causes warping of space-time, like a dimple in an elastic sheet. Because of this, as Mercury orbits, its ellipsis would slowly rotate round the Sun. This is called the precession of Mercury, and fully explains why gradually it moves from its expected position. All our solar system's planets do this too. But at such huge distances from the Sun, the effect of space-time is so incredibly tiny that their precessions are presently unobservable. Number 7. Mega-Earth. The Oort cloud is an immense sphere of icy debris that surrounds the solar system and is up to 10 trillion miles away from the Sun. In 1999, astrophysicists from the University of Louisiana proposed that there was a planet in the cloud which they named Tyche. They suggested that it orbits the Sun approximately once every 2 million years and is over 1,000 times bigger than the Earth. The scientists suggested that the long-period comets, ones that take over 200 years to orbit the Sun, come from the Oort cloud and that Tyche's gravity causes them to be flung towards it. no proof has been found. From 2012 to 2014, NASA's Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer telescope studied the proposed location of Tyche, but unfortunately found nothing. Number 6. Theia does exist. Where did our moon come from? It's thought that a planet, Theia, crashed into us 4.5 billion years ago, just 40,000 years or so after the Earth was first formed. When this theory was first suggested, the proposal was that it smashed a large lump into our space, which after millions of years of rounding through gravity became what we now see as our moon. This viewpoint has been challenged following analysis of the moon rocks collected during the Apollo missions. It appears that both the Earth and the moon are, by and large, made of similar material. The early Earth and Theia, in effect, mixed together, and that, later, a fragment of Earth Theia broke off and became our moon. Number 5. The Earth's distant twin. In the mysterious world of particle physics, it's thought that every particle has an antiparticle. So, for example, the antiparticle of the electron is the anti-electron, or positron. Nearly 2,500 years ago, a Greek philosopher called Philolaus proposed the idea that the planet Earth had a counter-Earth. He said that it couldn't be seen from here, as it was always mirrored on the opposite side of the Sun. And as we rotated round the Sun, it did the same. It's worth noting that a heliocentric model of our solar system was around long before Copernicus proposed it. Unfortunately, this is a hypothetical planet that simply couldn't have existed. The effects of gravity, particularly from Mercury and Venus, would have distorted the orbit of counter-Earth and over time moved it from its counter-position. Eventually, supposing that it was also about 93 million miles away from the Sun, the two planets, Earth and counter-Earth, would have met. Either they would have crashed into each other, or their gravities would have pushed them into new orbits. Number 4. The end is nigh. Well, according to Zecharia Sitchin, a famous author who proposed theories on human origins involving ancient astronauts. Luckily, nigh is 3,600 years from now. Sitchin, in his 1976 book, The 12th Planet, proposed the existence of Nibiru, which he claimed orbits the Sun every 3,600 years. Just for clarification, Nibiru is often called Planet X, which is not the same as Planet 9, which is also called Planet X. We'll look at that one a bit later. Anyway, self-proclaimed psychic Nancy Lieder claimed that aliens had been in touch with her, warning that the hypothetical planet would crash into the Earth in 2003. It didn't. She revised her warning and said that she'd received new information that this catastrophe would happen in 2012. Meanwhile, in 2011, comet Elenin approached the Earth but broke up before it could cause any harm to us. Some theorists claim that this was an indication of Nibiru's imminent arrival. Anyway, 2012 came, but luckily Nibiru didn't. So according to Sitchin, the year 5612 could be bad news for the Earth, but hopefully not. Number 3. Mysterious Shepherd. What about Planet 9 that we mentioned earlier? This one could indeed exist, according to scientists from NASA and the California Institute of Technology. There are solar bodies, way beyond Neptune, that are strangely clustered and tilted in identical ways. They're known as extreme trans-Neptunian objects. This arrangement and behavior is so improbable that these astronomers believe they are being shepherded by an undiscovered solar planet that they call Planet 9. They think it must have a mass between 5 and 10 times that of the Earth, and is about the same size as Neptune or Uranus, and orbits the Sun every 10 to 20,000 years. So far, it hasn't been spotted, but it is definitely under serious consideration. Number 2. Early Earth split into two? Is the Earth actually the planet Tiamat? This is another theory proposed by the famous author and researcher Zecharia Sitchin. It all started with the Sumerians. They thought there was a planet named Tiamat between Mars and Jupiter. Tom van Flandern, in his 1994 book Dark Matter, Missing Planets and New Comets, suggested that it had been destroyed 65 million years ago to become the asteroid belt. Zecharia Sitchin disagreed. In his book, The 12th Planet and the Cosmic Code, He suggested that Tiamat had crashed into another hypothetical planet, Marduk. The collision had created a new planet which broke in half. One half is the Earth and the other is the Moon, and the remaining fragments became the asteroid belt. Number 1. Dr. Seuss's planet. Was there an icy, giant planet in our solar system that can explain its present arrangement? In 2005, at an international conference in Nice, France, eminent scientists and astronomers proposed that our solar system began with 5 giant planets: the present Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune, with a hypothetical ice giant between Saturn and Uranus. The now missing ice giant's name has not been agreed upon. Suggestions include Hades, Liber, Mephitis, and playfully Thing 1 from Dr. Seuss's Cat in the Hat book for children. It's very complicated. However, put simply, the scientists suggest that this ice giant had a close encounter with Jupiter, thus bringing Jupiter and Saturn into their present orbits. It may have triggered the late heavy bombardment of the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, the Earth and Mars, and stabilized their orbits. So, where is it now? It suggested that when it had a near miss with Jupiter, it was cast into outer space. Astronomers are searching for it, but, as yet, with no success.